Hello, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar about the Master's Programmes in Big Data Technologies and Computer Science and Advanced Computer Science at Glasgow Caledonian University. I'm delighted to introduce our host today, Dr. Jim Paterson, who is the Programme Leader for these programmes. He's going to discuss some information about the teaching and the learning experience here at GCU. Do feel free to ask any questions in the chat box on screen. And with that, I'll hand you straight over to Jim.
Okay, thanks, Jenny. So, as Jenny says, I'm going to talk about these three master's programs, which are based in the Department of Computer Science at Glasgow Caledonian University. And I'm going to talk about the following. I'm going to talk about the academic year at GCU and how that works with those courses. Talk about teaching and assessment. I'll talk about the contents of the three programs and what distinguishes them from each other. And then I'll say a little bit about the support available to you and the staff that you will be interacting with if you come on one of these programs, a little bit about accreditation of the programs and the careers that they prepare you for, and then finally just a little bit about what life is like in Glasgow, where I'm located. So, just to give a bit of context, the academic year at GCU is split into three parts or three trimesters, and trimester A and B are where we run the top modules. So that's September to December, January to April. And then trimester C is primarily for the dissertation at the at the end of the programs. So the programs you typically have start dates in September and January. There's two starts per year typically. The academic calendar looks a little bit different if you start in trimester B, but if you start in trimester A, you do top modules for 2 trimesters and then the dissertation. And these three programs that I'm talking about today have start points in September this year, and that's what I'm focusing on here. Okay, let's take a look at the programs, the three programs. I will show for each one. I'll show you a list of the modules that give you an idea of the content, and I'll say a little bit about what the particular features of the programs are. So the first one is MSc Big Data Technologies, which is a fairly long-established, successful program, and it focuses on basically designing engineering solutions to problems that are related to data. So there's very much a focus on data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, again, related to data. There's also an engineering focus in the course as well. For example, software engineering, big data platforms is all about data engineering and so on. So essentially it's an advanced master's program related to engineering solutions to data related problems. And you can see all the modules there. I'm not going to talk through all of the module titles, but that gives you the idea. Computer science is a relatively new program, and it is a conversion master's. So it's available for people that have a degree, an undergraduate degree of a suitable undergraduate degree in a subject that is not directly related to computer science or software engineering and so on. So it focuses on two things. It gives a broad coverage of computer science as a discipline, and it focuses on the fundamentals, because we don't assume a background in computer science for people coming on this program. In fact, we do get people from all sorts of different backgrounds. We have people coming from, I don't know, marketing backgrounds, engineering backgrounds, and so on. So there's some overlap between this and the big data technologies. We cover artificial intelligence again and software engineering, but there are other modules there that focus on the fundamentals and introducing the fundamentals of programming, database systems, and so on. Okay, and finally, we have a new program which is starting in September, and it's Advanced MSc Advanced Computer Science. It has a similar broad coverage of computer science to the MSc Computer Science, but the difference is this is an advanced program, hence the title, which is intended for people who have an undergraduate degree in computer science or a related subject, and it is taking their knowledge further and in more depth. For example, we have modules on advanced programming, which goes well beyond the basics of programming advanced operating systems. So things that topics that applicants will have covered in their first degree, but just going into more depth with those. Again, some overlap. A couple of modules are in common with the big data technologies. We see big data platforms down there, for example. So there is that data engineering is an important part of computer science today. And we have that thread of artificial intelligence and machine learning, which is in all the programs. Okay, so hopefully that gives you an idea of which program might be of interest to you. So I'll move on and talk about the what it's like or what's involved in if you do come and study one of these programs. So we have the teaching in these programs is they're all fairly similar. They all are delivered as lectures and practical lab sessions. Typically, each module that you do will have a 1 hour lecture per week. Mostly those are on campus in one of our lecture theatres or classrooms. We do have some online delivery of lectures. Partially that's because some of the modules also run at our London campus, and we tend to do those lectures together with the London and Glasgow students together. But as I say, most of the classes that you have will be in person on campus. The practical classes are all on campus. These are a really important part of all the programs. These are all very practical programs where we want to give you hands-on experience of the technologies discussed in the lectures and of tools that are industry standard tools for the technologies that you'll be working with. So typically there'll be a 2 hour per week practical session, which will be supervised. There'll be somebody there to help you work through the practical tasks that you're assigned. And we have computer labs with access to the software and resources that you require. Actually, a lot of the resources, a lot of the software we use is either cloud-based or is free and open source, and that you can install on your own machine if you have access to one. But actually, more and more, and we are moving towards cloud-based services, which in some cases are the subject of the modules. In some cases, they are tools that help us work with the modules. So we'll use things like Google Cloud, AWS, Databricks, which is a very important cloud-based service for working with data, as the name suggests. So that's teaching a little bit about assessment. Each module has two, or typically there are two pieces of assessment per module, or which will be mostly either coursework exercises. In some cases, there will be in-class tests, which may be practical tests based on the lab work that you've been doing throughout the module. There are no formal written exams on these programs, so everything is either coursework or in-class tests. Just a little bit of a heads up that it's important to know if you are coming to join us. You do have 2 attempts at each assessment. Hopefully you pass those assessments at the first time, but you do get a second attempt should you need that. So it's important to be aware that that is something you have, but you only have the 2 attempts. But we have all various measures in place if people are have issues. Sometimes international students have situations where that or sometimes all students have situations which give them difficulty during the year. So we have a fit to sit or a not fit to sit policy that you can defer an attempt at assessment if you have such circumstances. Okay, in terms of people that you will meet and be working with on campus, I'll give you an indication of the services and people that are involved in the program. Each program has a program leader. There are 3 programs there at the moment. I'm leading all of them. I will probably not continue to lead all of the programs, but I will be involved in the programs. So there will be a a program leader who has overall responsibility for the program and is really your first point of call if you have questions and issues when you're studying here. Every module has a module leader. Most of the module leaders are based in Glasgow, but a couple of the modules have a leader who's based in London and leads the module for students on both campuses. You also have a personal tutor who may well be, in fact, also the program leader, but not always, who's also a point of contact for general advice and general support, or somebody who can point you to who really is the best person to help you with particular problems or issues that you might have. So the module leaders and other lecturers who are involved with those modules support the practical classes as well as delivering the lectures. Supervise dissertations. When you do your dissertation, you will have an individual dissertation supervisor. But there's also other centres within the university that support students on their journey through the programme. The Learning Development Centre is really important. It can provide support in things like academic writing, math skills, and so on. And there are many student services related to careers, well-being, and a really important one for international students is the visa service, who are experts in the rules and ways of dealing with visa requirements. Okay, in terms of resources, when you're studying, there are a number of resources and systems that we use and that you'll experience. And the key core of our learning is GC Learn. It's a virtual learning environment based on the Blackboard system, which you may have seen or heard of elsewhere. But the GC Learn has an entry for each module, an area for each top module, where all the module materials, lecture notes, lab tasks, and so on are made available to you. It's also used for assessment and feedback. Almost all the assessments involve submitting work or interacting with something on GCU Learn. There's also the GCU Learn has a tool called Collaborate Ultra, which is the system for online collaboration or online classes. There are other ones. We use Teams usually for individual meetings. Cellcat for timetables. We have an attendance system in place, and we use a system called CodeGrade for providing feedback on a lot of your assessments. So lots of tools and systems to get used to, but they're all well supported. So just a couple of words about the awards, the endpoints for the program. Ideally, you will graduate with an MSc in whichever of those programs that you sign up for. You need 180 credits for doing that. The credit scores for each of the modules were indicated on the program structures that I showed you earlier. There are a couple of exit points if you need to leave the program before getting to 180 credits. So there are exit awards of postgraduate certificate and postgraduate diploma. The Big Data Technologies program is accredited by the British Computer Society. We do seek accreditation for all the programs in the computer science department. The other programs, the computer science and advanced computer science, will be put forward for accreditation at the next opportunity, because these are new programs. They haven't been done yet, but we expect that they will be accredited, and that accreditation will be backdated. But the Big Data Technologies has been BCS accredited for quite some time. So these are very much employer-focused, employment-focused programs using industry standard tools and technologies. Programs designed in consultation with industry. We get industry guest speakers as often as we can. So we're very much focused on teaching what industry is using. And preparing you for job roles, whether whichever of the programs you're on, that's the case. The job roles on the left there, the data-focused ones, you would expect to be relevant to the big data technologies in particular, although not exclusively. The job roles on the right are a little bit broader and mapped to that broader focus of the computer science and advanced computer science programs. And all of these job roles are roles that can be found in Scotland, in the UK, and elsewhere in a wide range of industries. Our graduates go in to work for companies and organisations as listed there: engineering, pharmaceuticals, finance, healthcare, and so on and so on. These skills, these the employable skills that you've got can give you access to a wide range of careers in a wide range of organisations. Finally, just a little bit of a word about Glasgow. Glasgow is a vibrant student city. There are a number of universities in Glasgow, and it's a great place to study. Apart from the universities, it has great nightlife and culture, but it's also a big city with lots of green spaces and pleasant areas to be and to live. Good public transport, friendly locals, up to a point. So I do mention weather there. Weather in Glasgow is maybe not a selling point. It can be varied, but it's certainly never boring. Yeah, you might want to prepare for the occasional bit of rain in Glasgow. But really, it's a temperate climate, and it's not it's certainly a varied experience, the weather in Scotland in general. But Glasgow has a great location. It's a big city, but it's really close to some absolutely beautiful parts of Scotland. You don't have to go very far to be hiking in the mountains or strolling around the edge of lochs and so on. A couple of pictures there, one of Loch Lomond, which is a famous loch or lake just to the north of Glasgow, and the other picture is our large concert arena, known as the Hydro there, which ties in with the cultural scene in Glasgow. So Glasgow is a great place to live for the time that you're here. It's also got lots of industry, lots of commerce, jobs and opportunities. There are lots of different sorts of organisations, in particular the financial organisations have been locating and building facilities most recently in Glasgow. So it's a great place to live, and for the duration of your study, and who knows, possibly afterwards as well. So that's me. That's all I wanted to say. So I'm happy to answer questions. I see Jenny has picked up on my comments about the weather, and she's absolutely right. The weather is absolutely beautiful today. So, yeah. But fire away any questions you have, and I'll pick those up.
Thanks so much for that, Jim. It was really thorough and really interesting. Hopefully it's covered off most of what everybody wants to hear, but please do, everyone in the audience, put in your questions into the chat box and we'll be happy to pick those up. Just while people have a moment to type up their questions, I'd just like to remind you that this is an ongoing week of information sessions. We do have more sessions going on today, other academic ones, but also general ones. So this afternoon at 1 o'clock, we have a CAS and Visa session. At 1:30, we have a virtual campus tour of Glasgow and London campuses. Then tomorrow, we've got an accommodation support for the London campus and funding scholarships after that one. So I'm going to pop a link to those for people to be able to browse. We've got a question in from Alexander. What would the timetable look like for advanced computer science?
Okay, thanks for that, Alexander. So the timetable for the 3 programs are all pretty similar. So you have, during the taught semesters or trimesters, you will have 4 modules. Each module will have a 1-hour lecture and a 2-hour practical. So you'll basically have 4 hours of lectures and 8 hours of practicals. And those will be arranged across the week. We try to make the timetabling as efficient for you as possible, and we try and fit that amount of class time into 3 days, or possibly 4 at most. You'll always have at least 1 day where you don't have classes, but timetabling is a complex thing, so we that can vary from year to year exactly what that looks like. So hopefully that answers that questions. So we have a question from Lukman. Are big data and computer science 2 different faculties? I'll answer that and what I think you mean, but correct me if I'm wrong. So these courses, big data and the two computer science programs, are all delivered within the Department of Computer Science. So they're not in different faculties. They're different programs, but they are not different faculties. And as you've seen, they do share some modules. So we think of them as part of the same suite of programs, but just a different emphasis on each of the programs. So hopefully that makes sense. I don't see anything else at the moment. Hopefully I've covered most of what you wanted to know, but if you have anything that wasn't clear or that you want to know, then do go ahead and ask. This is your opportunity to do that.
It looks like that might be us for questions from the audience. I think you give a really good, thorough overview of the programmes, the teaching experience and the GCU experience, Jim. So hopefully that has covered off everything that everybody wants to know. But do feel free to email us if anyone does have any more questions after the session, anything that might pop into mind afterwards. So just a reminder before we close off to please do click on the link that I've posted and sign up for any other sessions that you might be interested in, might be helpful to you. It's posted and it's pinned at the top of the chat box. If there's no other questions, then I'd just like to thank Jim for his time presenting to us today, and for everybody who's attended for your time. Thank you very much. And I think we can close off the webinar just now.
Okay, thanks for joining, everybody.